educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast, where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
I thank you very much for tuning in today. I have a very special guest today. He is an author, hybrid athlete, and founder of Executive Health. It is a boutique concierge service that helps forward-thinking CEOs, executives, and high-achieving individuals live longer and better by leveraging their unique biodata, data-driven analytics, and personalized programming. He is also the host of Executive Health and Life, a podcast that helps you become the CEO of your health and life so you can look, feel, and stay at the top of your game. He has over 300 published articles in Inc., Entrepreneur Success, Chief Executive, and many more. I thank you very much for tuning in today. I have none other than Julian Hayes II. Julian, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Looking forward to being here and looking forward to the conversation.
So Julian, man, we had such a powerful conversation before we got on this microphone, and I'm like, yo, we should be recording it. So we're going to kind of continue this. And so I just want everyone to know, Julian and I, we were speaking about just some of our challenges. And one of the challenges has been maybe being too hard on ourselves, critiquing ourselves, because of maybe we think that we need to be perfect in a certain space, right? So Julian, what have you done to kind of encourage yourself, say, hey, you know what? I don't have to be perfect, but I need to continue moving on. So talk about some of those type of things that you might have gone through.
Yeah, the thing about perfection is a lot of times perfection can be a sneaky form of procrastination, and it can also be a form of self-sabotage. And sometimes, at least in my case, it was almost a fear of success.
Right.
A lot of times when you think about that is really putting yourself out there and ask yourself, why am I trying to be perfect? Because I think we inherently know that perfection is an illusion. Nothing's ever perfect. Even if you listen to your favorite athletes at the end of the game, they'll say, like Tom Brady or something, right? Listen to his old interviews, right? And they'll say, you guys did this good in day. And he's going to point out the one or two things that he could work on. And that's what he's going back in the film room to work on next time.
Right.
Same thing with Peyton Manning, same thing with Michael Jordan, all the great athletes. So we inherently know this. So I think this is a form of really self-sabotage for us, whether it's a fear of success, fear of, am I going to be able to handle this?
Right.
Of what's required if I do put myself out there fully and things start to go well. Can I handle that? Am I scared to handle that? And all those different things. So I think for a lot of us, it's more of a fear of success, fear of responsibility of what comes with that, more so than a fear of failure.
So I know for myself, the name of the show is called That Will Never Work, right? And it's called that because I heard that a lot growing up by my family members. They didn't think I was going to be a business owner. They didn't think I was going to have this podcast. They didn't think that even when I said something to them about me winning an award for this show, they didn't even see that coming, because they didn't believe, they didn't support me and all those type of things. So how do you overcome the noise that's outside, when you started your business or being an athlete, whatever it is, like, how do you overcome that when someone says, Julian, that's not going to happen?
Yeah, you have to get to a point to where you ignore the circumstances and just say circumstances do not matter. And I often say I ignore the 3D world around me, right? And also, I keep a lot of my goals and stuff to myself. Not everyone needs to know that because a lot of times people can't see that. A lot of times people need to see something before they believe it, right?
Right.
Whereas a lot of us, when you're starting a business or you're going after a career that's not related to what you're initially known for, you're just looking to reinvent yourself, recreate yourself. And people only know you as this version, whereas in your head you can already see the next destination. You can see the bridge that you want to cross. Maybe the steps are not there yet that you can walk across, but you see it already.
Right.
And so for me, I started to get compassion and understanding from people. It's just like, okay, you're just not maybe as much of a visionary as I am to see this, or a dreamer.
Hmm.
And I don't take no offense to it. It's just the way they see the world. And so now something more tangible and actionable that you can do with that is try to find your crew, try to find your network. So think of this as a TV show, and maybe you're in
Mm.
season 4 of your TV show, right?
Right.
And you have to let some of those people go on that cast, and we have to get new people on this show for the next season coming up. That's gonna keep the show going. That's gonna keep the show fresh. This show and this metaphor is your life.
Hmm.
So what's going to propel you for that, right? So it's not that you never talk to them. They're just not a recurring cast anymore.
Mm.
They might be there for a few episodes. I might see you at the holidays. We might talk one time a week instead of 3 times a week.
Mm.
Little things like that to really guard your energy, to really guard and protect your boundaries. So it's you're creating yourself, you're recreating yourself, but you also have to think about recreating your environment. And a lot of
Hmm.
times we all just can't necessarily just up and pack our bags and leave,
Right.
but we can start to reduce some of that contact that we're going to have that's not going to be conducive to us, because especially at the early part of your business, when you're
Hmm.
really at the it's I almost think, I don't have a kid yet, right?
Hmm.
But I almost think of it like a baby, right? A baby's very fragile when they're right, and you got to be they need a lot of nurturing and care and guidance. And so you got to think of kind of like the early stages of your business that way. You can't expose it to too much of the
Mm.
harshness of the world. So that's why be very quiet until you create something. And also another thing with that is you are the reason why I love to say silent is because sometimes you'll share your goals and your big dreams,
Hmm.
and people will say, "Oh man, that's awesome, man. I'm so excited for you." And you'll be like, "Yeah, that is cool." And you'll start to feel like you already accomplished something when you haven't done anything except talk.
You're right about that.
But you get that but you get that feeling. So for me, I've learned to shut up and just move in silence, and
Right.
then you'll see something eventually, right? Or if
Right.
I need, or I'll talk to the right people. The right people you share, right, they'll be like, okay, cool. What are you going to do about it? What's 1 or 2 things you're going to do today or tomorrow?
Right.
So that's my kind of rationale with that whole thing right there.
So how would I change? Because it's that phrase of changing the breakfast table, right? Changing the
Hmm.
5 people that you're around with the most. But these people have been quote unquote rocking with me the whole
Hmm.
time. They've been supporting me the whole time. So why would I want to change that if that's the illusion that they've been doing? So
Hmm.
and then not only why do I want to change it, what is the real benefit of doing that?
Yeah. It's a rite of passage. If you look at any great story, whether it's a movie, whether it's even real life,
Hmm.
study any successful individual, we all have this moment where we have to make a sacrifice, where
Mm.
we have to change, we have to evolve, or we're going to stay where we are. If it's good, that's great. If you're happy with that, but if you're not happy with that, if you have the aspirations for something bigger, you have to be willing for a trade-off.
Hmm.
So what am I willing to give up? What am I willing to let go of in order to get this next thing? Because if I'm not willing to let go of anything, I don't have any room to allow anything else new to come in.
Mm. Hmm.
And so that's one of the reasons. And also I think it's an obligation, because
Mm.
you never know who you're going to inspire. By me taking this leap
Right.
and really pursuing something, your actions are always going to inspire people much more than your words will, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Because they'll say, wow, man, this guy built this podcast. I'm sure when you have these successful podcasts,
Hmm.
and when that really got going, I'm sure that you had people say, hey man, how'd you do that? That's really good, man.
Mm.
um how'd you get started with that? Right. And
Right.
you get that seed right there of like, well, he did it and I know him. He's just a regular dude that we used to
Right.
hang out. Maybe I can do something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's what it starts. So I think of almost as success and really pursuing your potential as an obligation, not only to ourselves, not only to our family, but to society as a whole.
Hmm. So I'm listening to what you're saying, and I know personally, Julian, I just met you, right?
Hmm.
And I'm reading your information. I'm listening to other episodes that you or other podcasts you might have been on, and I'm gonna be honest with you. No, you're an inspiration to me as well, right? Because I get to learn from you. I get to hear where you are. I get to hear growth. I get to see other places or people that you might have touched that hey, I might not have considered. So, for an example, you've written over 300 articles. You're in some major magazines. Well, that's something I'm considering, right? So now
Hmm.
I'm really curious as to, all right, Julian, give me the heads up, man. Like, how did it, how did this work? How did, that work or whatever else?
Hmm.
So, but otherwise, as we had spoken in the green room as well, sometimes, we need to use these other platforms, these resources to find someone like yourself to conversate or whatever else. But here's my challenge. I'm saying all that to say this, Julian. I'm an introvert. I like staying
Yeah.
in the house.
Yes.
I don't think I really want to speak to anybody. So how would I change that narrative or that idea that I have so embedded inside of me that I'm an introvert and that I don't like people in order for me to get to where I want to get to?
Yeah, I love this. I love this question because I'm not really an extrovert. People think I'm an extrovert now, and I trained myself, and
mm.
out of necessity for the mission, and for where I said I wanted to do, where I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to go, it required me to be a little more public with everything, uh, and so that's my first thing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, if you think about it, ask yourself, why are you truly an introvert? That's what I had to ask myself. Am I truly an introvert, or am I just not confident, or am
Hmm.
I just nervous about the situation? And if it's any of those things, then I think about, okay, if I'm not confident, how can I increase my confidence to where I feel more comfortable going out?
Hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I love to ask myself questions. And then I also love to ask myself, is it true? Because a lot of times there's really very few absolutes in this world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so for me, what I determined was I might be an introvert, but this is just how I recharge. So this past weekend, I was at a conference and I got to speak, and then after the time you speak, you talk afterwards as well, and then it's a pretty social event for 4 or 5 days or so. That's a lot of people talk for me,
Mm-hmm.
and so for me, I take an extra day or two before coming home, and I just recharge. And for me to recharge, I recharge in my own company
Mm-hmm.
and just
Mm-hmm.
walking and thinking. Whereas some people get rejuvenated by being around others. And so that was a
Mm.
distinction right there. So for me now, being introverted means I recharge just being to my own company.
Mm-hmm.
But it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that I can't thrive and be around people and talk and everything. It's just a different type of mode. And also, if I know that I need to talk to people or I'm going to an event where I need to be social, I'm going to keep myself pretty much people free for the rest of the day beforehand, so I can have the energy
Right.
and the bandwidth to be the extroverted people Julian. And
Gotcha.
so it's really a thing of energy management and really asking yourself that. And so I think introverts are actually some of the best people socially,
Mm.
because we don't want to be the center of attention a lot of times, which I'm okay with that now. I had to come to grips. I'm an only child. And
Mm-hmm.
so and it's but the introverts most of the time don't want to be the center of attention.
Right.
So what they're going to do is you're going to be an excellent listener and introspective. And people are going to
Mm-hmm.
love that, especially people who love to talk, love to hear themselves talk. You can just ask them a question and they're just going to ramble on and on.
Right.
And as we know, you get people to talking and you just ask them a few questions, they're going to like you more because you listen to them talk. So
Right.
it's an easy way to make friends and everything without you doing much effort. So I really challenge the introverts out there. Yes, look at it as a form of, does my mission require this?
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, really ask yourself, is this true? And if there's hesitations you have about that, just diagnose that like a good surgeon.
Mm.
And then uh, just you can go about working around it. If it's a confidence issue, you can fix it. You can work on it. If it's a skill issue you're worried about, you can fix it. We
Hmm.
live in the golden age of information now,
Yeah.
that you can literally learn about anything. You don't even have to leave the house for it. Like I went to Toastmasters
Mm-hmm.
and did that a few times, and that really helped me just to
Nice.
practice talking about stuff. And but now you can go on YouTube. There's books now, and you can
Right.
just and people are breaking down how certain speakers. So I watch speeches, not all the time, but
Mm-hmm.
I go through moments where I'm watching a lot of different speakers and debates and watching their cadence, watching how they talk, and then I'm saying, okay, I like that style. I can do that. That's me right there.
Mm-hmm.
Other people not so much. So I really challenge yourself on the stories that you're telling yourself.
Hmm. So how does this idea managing myself, diagnosing, practicing. How does this work into my mental health? Because now I want to get
Hmm.
into what you cover, right? So how does this work into my mental health as I move forward in my career or my business?
Yeah.
Because go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, go ahead. I was like, this, all that is connected. Your mental
Mm-hmm.
health, your physical health, all this is tied together. You know, from a basic standpoint, if you think about your thoughts, a lot of times, or I should say, your feelings,
Mm-hmm.
usually didn't lead to your thoughts. Your thoughts usually is going to lead to the type of actions you're going to take. From a health standpoint, this can lead to not so good nutritional decisions,
Mm-hmm.
which can affect you physically, but then also can affect you mentally due to the types of foods and nutrients you're feeding your body that you're thinking cognitively. So
Mm.
all this is tied together. And I also think that being physical, staying on top of your fitness, also brings you confidence
Mm-hmm.
to get out there if you're introvert because you're when you do hard any type of sort of hard training, you're establishing that, hey, I'm the type of person that can do hard things. I'm the type of person that has discipline. I'm the type of person that can do things that make me uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that translates over into these other areas in our career and getting out there in public, like you were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I love fitness for that because what it did for me, it's the gateway to personal development in all these other areas of life. Because for the
Mm-hmm.
most part, taking care of our fitness is free. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
can control if we go to the gym, we can control if we go for that run, that walk. We can control what we eat for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to give us a quicker win than something like building this big business that we want or rising up in corporate or any sort of thing like that. That stuff takes time.
Right.
And there's a lot of days where you won't visibly see tangible progress even if you feel it. So fitness is a great way to keep your mental health going high because you can see every day, did I work out or not? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
that's a check on a box that you're winning that day, that you're making progress. So it's a way to make you feel like a winner. Because I tell you, one of the hardest things for me initially when I was getting into writing more
Mm-hmm.
was there's a lot of days where you're pitching editors, you're searching for opportunities, and you're batting zero. You're striking out. You're not even getting to
Yeah.
first base,
Yeah.
and you're getting rejections, or even worse, you're not even hearing anything. Right? You're not even hearing thank you, but no thank you. You're just getting nothing.
Right.
In that moment, when you're like, man, I don't know, did I make the wrong decision? And should I be doing this?
Mm-hmm.
I can at least hang my hat on 45 minutes to an hour, going for a run, going to work out, and changing my endorphins in my head and feeling good about myself to
Mm-hmm.
kind of say, okay, and I'm building resiliency. And
Right.
that's the name of the game with everything that we do. So, absolutely, all this stuff is tied together.
So I'm glad that you a lot of first of all, Julian, I can go 1,000 different ways based off what you said. But,
Hmm.
I think one of the things that we need to be aware of is not just the working out piece, but even just waking up, making our beds, things like
Hmm.
that. Just these little things that we don't appreciate, you know, and we don't celebrate our little wins. You stated something about, hey, we need to have a big business, and hey, we need to sell $10 million worth of product in this one day, but that's not all. That's not going to happen, So what have you done to celebrate these little wins along the way that helps you stay encouraged to say, you know what, I know I bombed out today. Yes, I reached out to 52 editors and 54 of them didn't even respond. So how can I
Yeah.
keep going until the following day?
Yeah. This is actually something I'm still working on is actually acknowledging the small wins. I think
Mm-hmm.
for us entrepreneurs and just overly ambitious people, we're so future focused.
Mm-hmm.
We're so big picture focused. And a lot of times our feet are off the ground and we're not even stopping to smell the roses, right?
Right.
And so for me, journaling has helped. And then also, s- I have micro goals that
Mm.
eventually will lead to the bigger goal, right? So
Right.
so that thing kind of helps as well. And then I also realize that a lot of times that, hypothetically, the $10 million goal, right?
Right.
But before you get to 10 million, you have to get to 1 million,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
so maybe I should just focus on 1 million and then go from there. That's how some people do. Now, for
Right.
me, I can just keep 10 million in my mind and don't even need to worry about the 1 million, 2 million.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because I've become more and more process oriented in terms of my focus as opposed to just outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the outcome is 10 million, but what are the habits that I can
Right.
control to get to 10 million? And that's the things I focus on. So for example, I can control how many people I reach out to every day. So if I want to say I want to make 10 to 20 touch points in the market. So whether that's a couple social media posts,
Mm-hmm.
also connecting with new people on LinkedIn, or connecting with or talking with new people when I go out, I can control that stuff. I can
Right.
control if I want to write 500 to 1,000 words a day. I can control studying for 1 hour a day of my industry stuff. I can control going to sleep
Mm-hmm.
and taking care of my health. So usually that's the kind of stuff now that I focus on now, is becoming much more process oriented, because I can't fully control.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to say with this hypothetical goal, I can't fully control when this 10 million goal hits, right?
Right.
I can estimate and everything, but still I got to have enough buyers.
Right.
And
Right.
who knows, we can have market problems, the
Mm-hmm.
economy could slow, and we can have supply chain issues, and that's going to delay the goal. But I know to give myself the best position, I can control my outreach and little
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And by doing that, you start to take more of your personal power back, because you realize that this whole goal is in my hand. So you don't have to say,
Wow.
oh, well, I couldn't do this because of the economy or the circumstances, or nobody wants to buy anything and people are struggling. It's like, no, I can control what I can control. And
Mm-hmm.
that gives me more of a sense of control. And I think, as a lot of us entrepreneurs, it's not even more about the money. It's more about the sense of control, the freedom, the independence.
Right.
That's usually the feelings that a lot of us want, the time freedom at some point, right? So,
Right.
and the more I can take back of those things, the better I'm going to feel psychologically and emotionally.
Wow, Julian, man, you said a mouthful, bro. I'll be honest. I have to say I thank you very much for coming on the show, Julian. For those of us who are struggling with understanding control, most importantly,
Mm-hmm.
understanding controlling our health.
Mm-hmm.
Most importantly, because all that we spoke about today deals with our mental and physical, emotional, and social health. All the above, right? So if they need to talk to you, hear some wisdom, some words of wisdom from you, all those type of things, where can they reach out and find you?
Yeah, you can just go to executivehealth.io, go to the contact page, and just drop your name and email there, and we will just talk.
Nice, nice. So, Julian, I have to ask you the question before we sign off today, right? So, the world famous question I ask everybody that touches this microphone with me: would
Mm-hmm.
you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road?
Hmm. It's an interesting question. I'm going to go with the fork in the road because, one, it seems more exciting because there's an obstacle right in front of me. I know what my enemy is, or my hurdle,
Hmm.
and then I can just conquer it and see it, right? Whereas I think about 3 doors, and there's too much chance, right? I got to pick one of these doors, and I don't know what's down there. Whereas with the fork in the road, I see my enemy, I see my obstacle, and I can go attack it and hopefully eat it for breakfast.
Oh wow, that's a very interesting analogy. No, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you giving that answer, because a lot of people say, "Hey, I want to go down the road less traveled," or all those type of things. No one talked to us, really spoke to. As long as I've been asking this question, no one has really come to that point that you're speaking about. Of just let me see what I'm up against up front. If
Mm-hmm.
that barrier is right there in front of me, or that hurdle, I'm just gonna jump it, like you said, bite it, eat it, fight it, whatever it is. So, but I thank you for that perspective, though, Julian.
Well, I like the question. That made me think a little bit. So I appreciate the question.
Oh, sure, no problem, no problem. And of course, I thank you all for listening to That Will Never Work podcast. Julian, again, thank you very much for your time today. And of course, all his information will be in the show notes, and I will talk to you a little later.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Chisholm Group LLC and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work, or will it?